So welcome to the July 17th meeting of the Ann Arbor Renters Commission. The city administrator in matters affecting renters in the city. The Ann Arbor Renters Commission is made up of voting members who are appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council, two non-voting city council liaisons, two non-voting members representing different landlord perspectives, and a non-voting representative to the University of Michigan Student Legal Services. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, you'll be able to speak through the webinar link or by phone, depending on your method of access to this meeting. To be called on to speak, callers must press *9 if listening by phone, or use the raise hand feature if viewing through the web link a2gov.org/renterscommission meeting. You will then be called upon by city staff one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number, or by username if available for those accessing through the web link. You'll hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. Please state your name at the beginning of your comments. City staff will indicate when callers have 30 seconds left of their 3-minute comment period. After 3 minutes, you'll be placed on mute so that we can proceed on to the next speaker. Moving on to roll call. Commissioner Else.
I am here and I am in the car switching over to computer shortly in Ann Arbor. And it looks like
Okay.
Don is in the attendees as well. So looks like we're good.
Okay, great. I don't have host privileges this time. Commissioner Droppelman said that he cannot make it tonight. Commissioner Ratcliffe, I'm here, calling in from Ann Arbor. Councilmember Radina.
Here in Ann Arbor.
Thank you. Commissioner Chen.
Yes, first off, I have to say sorry. I updated my whole phone systems and the Verizon messed up the numbers, so that's why I have to. I'm sorry, but I made it. Thank you, both of you, and I'm sorry. I'm here in Ann Arbor. Sorry.
It's okay. The important thing is that you're here. It's been a long day. Councilmember Harrison said that she's running late. Commissioner Pitts.
Here, Ann Arbor.
Welcome. I like your balcony. Commissioner Liao.
Here from Ann Arbor, and sorry about the late join. I've been dealing with some tech issues today.
It's okay. Like I said, it's been a long day for a number of us, and computer problems and everything. Commissioner Wood is not here tonight. Commissioner Larseny's.
Here in Arbor.
Thank you. And Commissioner Rosen said that she could not be here tonight. And the city attorney, John Reiser. He's here, but he's
I'm
the
here
passenger in a
and
vehicle.
I'm trying to migrate to my laptop.
All right. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. We'll move on to the first item of the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda. If can have someone move to approve.
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Nope. Then we'll go ahead and move forward to a vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda as is, please unmute and say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, please unmute and say nay. Any abstained? All right, great. Then the agenda has been approved, and we'll go ahead and move on to the approval of the May 15th minutes. We did not have a meeting in June. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, then we'll go ahead and move on to a vote. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from May, please unmute and say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, please unmute and say no. Okay, great. Then the meeting minutes from the agenda is passed, from the, sorry, from the last meeting has passed, and we'll go ahead and move on to the first general public comment. Kristen?
All right. Public comment can be made by phone at 877-853-5247 or 888-788-0099, meeting ID 935-8080-1941. To rate, or you can join using the web link, a2gov.org/renters commission meeting. And if you are in the meeting and you would like to address the Renters Commission about any topic for up to 3 minutes, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 if you've called in, or using the raise hand feature if you've joined with the web link. There are no attendees.
All right, then we'll go ahead and move on to unfinished business. There wasn't any, so we'll go ahead and move on to the new business. The first one is item 7-A, which is the officer elections. The two officer positions are the chair and the vice chair. We'll go ahead and do the vice chair first. The current vice chair is Dan Chen, Commissioner Chen. Is there a motion? Dan?
Yeah, can I recommend Hannah to be the vice chair, please?
Okay, do we second that, or do we go for any other
You should
nominations first?
you should get the second first, and then you can open up for more nominations.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Are there any other nominations? All right, then we'll go ahead and go for a vote. All those in favor of Commissioner Larceny's becoming our new vice chair, please unmute and say aye.
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 All those opposed, please unmute and say nay. All right, great. Then congratulations, Hannah. You're our new vice chair. And Dan, thank you for serving as vice chair this past year.
I should say thanks, everybody. You're the best. Thank you. You guys are really the best. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, then we'll go ahead and move on to chair. Are there any nominations? Currently, I'm the chair, and so we'll be nominating the chair for this upcoming year. Are there any nominations for the chair?
I nominate Rosanita again.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll
Dan?
second. I'll
Second.
second.
All right, thank you. Then we'll go ahead and, are there any nominations for anyone else for the chair? Okay, then we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of Rosanita, Commissioner Ratcliffe, myself as the chair, please unmute and say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, please unmute and say no. All right, thank you. Congratulations to me. But thank you, everyone, and I look forward to working with you as the Hannah's for the upcoming year. And we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Festival tabling sign up. Festival was it towards the end of August, and on 2 separate dates there are different shifts to sign up for. We're not signing up for the shifts tonight, but what is going to happen is that Kristen will send a sign up genius link for you guys to sign up for the shift. We'll be sharing a table with AATU because their college, because they're because of needing to have a university student sign up so that we can have a free table, because we found out the Renters Commission doesn't have a budget for us to be able to sign up on our own, because there was a small fee is what we were told. Hannah, do you remember what those dates and times are?
Yeah, so there's the festival on North Campus is Monday, August 25th from 5 to 8 p.m. The Central Campus Festival on the Diag is on Wednesday, August 27th, and they have three shifts. There's one that's 2 to 3:30 p.m., 4:30 to 6 p.m., and 7 to 8:30 p.m. I don't know if the AATU is planning on doing both North and Central. Um, but if they are, I suppose we could do all of it.
See, Jordan talked to them most recently about it, but from what I understand is that they'll be assigned a shift later. Like everyone applies for shifts, and then the different organizations will be told what shift they're allowed to be at. And so for us, with those times and dates, it's basically kind of like a save the date for the people who say that they're available at that time. And then once we know the time for sure, then if that time isn't needed, then like go out, have fun. Um, and it's kind of how we were thinking about work, might be the best way to go about it. So that way we definitely have someone signed up for the shifts. Are there any questions? Jordan, did I get that right?
Yep, you got it. That's exactly right.
Okay, good. All right, then we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the August meeting, and a discussion about the August meeting and questions for planning services. The original intent for planning services to come was to let us know, because we're getting a lot of new construction and new apartments coming online, just to give us an update as to how many are have come online in this past year and are set to come on, I think, within the next year, because it sounds like it's going to be quite a few units, which is like yay. And it also gives an opportunity to ask some questions, again, regarding the housing that's coming online and the dates. Or yeah, I would say timeframes. Are there any questions about that? From when Kristen and I discussed it, we talked about having kind of like when building and inspection services came, which is that Kristen would send out a kind of like a document, and you would just say the questions that you had so we could get them to planning services within a good amount of time for staff to be able to answer the questions. And so you'll just to be on the lookout for that. And we'll have like I said, we'll have a set deadline for that as well. Otherwise, really, it's just going to be about, a short presentation on how many units, where around the city those the new construction is happening and is opened up. If there aren't any questions, then we'll go ahead and move forward onto to in the agenda. The next were questions for John Reiser, because he's here tonight. Oh, right, Councilmember Dina.
Yeah, sorry. Is this the appropriate time to raise something else that we might want to add to the next agenda?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to let you guys know, and I was going to do this in the council update, but perhaps since we're talking about the agenda and planning for it, currently we have attorneys Reiser and Richards are making at least one modification to the potential next step on fees in renting, and so I am hopeful that I might be able to provide an update at the August meeting so that we can then review. I also had a meeting this last week with the Washington Area Apartment Association to kind of have a high level conversation with them, as there are the next one will require folks to modify lease agreements, things like that, trying to get an idea of timeline it would take to update leases. But wanted to make sure that we saved some time potentially in August to go over any final revisions to that so that we can get that moving again to the council table.
Okay, great. Let's see. And then were there questions for John since since he's here? I feel like we had some that had come up from the tenant. Oh, Hannah?
I unfortunately don't have exact questions prepared like what we discussed, but there were 3 work plan items that we just made a note that we wanted to consult with legal about. The first one was our work plan item regarding the certificate of compliance for owner occupied rentals. And I think we were just unclear about the whole owner occupied rental situation in general. Does anyone else remember if we had specific thoughts or questions on that one?
Jordan?
Yeah, I think the issue was Gail had been mentioning that there were some students that had kind of gotten involved in situations, or not even students, beyond students, some renters that had gotten in owner occupied situations and they weren't being inspected. And so we had kind of looked at the language, and it's pretty unclear about like what exactly that means because they use the term like unit and things. So does that mean, for example, owner occupied situations can vary? For example, a family member's house that we manage is, they live in the main floor and then there's a rental unit upstairs. And we've always had to have that inspected and be told we had to have that inspected. Gail thought that maybe that wasn't true in that case, but she was also referring to situations where it was like a bedroom in a house. So you have a lease for this bedroom in a house that the owner lives down the hall. That's not getting inspected, and then there are safety issues and problems coming from that, I think was kind of the 2 different situations and the specifics about it. So that's what I'm recalling from that.
You want to hear, you want me to just chime in a little bit generally?
Yes, please.
So under section 8511 of the housing code, it talks about periodic inspections. So this is a little bit of the chicken egg. How do you get a CFC? You get a CFC by getting an inspection, or asking for an inspection, and that it gives the CFC, the semi-quinquennial, 2.5 years or longer if it passes with flying colors. But it says under 8511, the building official shall inspect all dwelling units except owner-occupied, single-family, attached and detached, and homes for the agents which are licensed by the state of Michigan on a periodic basis. So there are some houses out there there are some rental houses that are exempt from inspections. Now, that doesn't mean that a tenant can't ask for an inspection, because that's another basis for an inspection. But as far as what we're entitled to inspect, it's different under our current ordinance. And it's been the practice of the uh, rental housing department that they don't issue CFCs if you don't need an inspection.
So does that mean that if the owner lives within the single family residence,
Yes. Yeah, and there's a guy famous for having these. And an owner occupied dwelling is a dwelling occupied by its owner or by members of his or her family, on a non-rental basis or leased by said owner to a tenant or successive tenant for a period not to exceed 2 years. So yeah, there was, and I've had this discussion with Gail in the past about students who live in these rentals.
And so, okay, so the family member, so it's the family member or the owner of the dwelling. So
That's
whether
right.
it's a,
Yeah.
and then I guess my secondary question is, if you have the main house and then you have an accessory dwelling unit, are those considered two separate dwellings, or they can, if like the owner lives in the ADU and they rent out the house, or vice versa?
And that's a really good question. I don't know if that has come up or if we've thought about that, or if our ordinance chapter 105 doesn't need to be addressed in that. It's also come up in the past where um, people have two houses
Mm-hmm.
in claiming uh, that they reside in both houses.
Is this something that we should come back to in a later, like in a couple of months to see?
Yeah, you might want to give it
We
some
can,
thought as to are these owner occupied dwellings, do they predominate on campus? Is it student housing? Is it non-student housing? Are there many of them? Should we tweak our ordinance? Are we starting to get ADU rentals? Um, that type of thing. Should we address ADUs, or should we address the number of these that you're entitled to not have inspected? So there are some improvements to the ordinance that I think could happen, and that might be something the Renters Commission might want to take up.
okay, because like I don't think we had that many ADUs previously, but I know that, there's been that within the past couple of years, right, council had done some updates with that, and with the hope that there would be some more that do come online. But I'm gonna give it back to Hannah.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was a specific reason why these rentals were excluded in the ordinance, and if it is feasible to undo the exclusion and just like inspect all rentals regardless of the situation.
And I don't know, other than maybe, and this is just me speculating, that the homeowner lives there. So it's not a landlord trying to monetize a piece of parcel that he's only interested in minimally improving because he doesn't live there, if that makes sense. It's someone's house where they're there all the time. Like the landlord lives there, the property manager lives there. They have an interest in making sure that it's clean, that it's up to code, those types of things. It's also kind of a different type of tenant relationship. It's you're staying with a family, or you're renting a room within a house. That's different than most rentals, but I think it's because the person lives there. It's their own home. So it's not only is it a rental, it's a domicile.
Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I hear that. And I mean, I think we all have a family member who hasn't kept their house. Like I don't to me that's not good enough rationale. Like if a person is making money on the unit, they have a duty to keep it just as safe as any other unit that is rented. Like I think that this is something that is worth addressing, especially because we've gotten enough. I mean, Gail doesn't just bring something up because she gets a one-off.
No, no.
She brings it up because she's gotten a handful. And so I think it would be worth two things. Like obviously we need to clarify with Gail what she's seeing recently. And then I also think that like bringing it to the tenants union and really kind of seeing if they have heard of these kind of things and looping them in. Because yeah, just I don't know. It really is is sitting wrong with me, and I know exactly what you're talking about, John. I think I know exactly the person that you're talking about. That's, you know, claims they live in different places, and like that's wrong. And the way that their business run is unsafe for reasons like that. Like if we have, say, for example, two houses with 6 bedrooms in them that they're claiming it's a single family house because it was like a house that was split and people are living in them and they're not getting inspected, that's like 12 people that are living in a situation that are not entitled to the same safety standards, even though they have a lease that looks like a normal property management thing. Like that feels really yucky to me. So I guess just weighing in on the like who deserves protection and why, and that feels like something that's worth addressing. Just so my 2 cents.
So I'll also point out that under section 8511, under paren 2, complaints, if a complaint is filed with the building official concerning an alleged violation, the PDSU shall notify the owner of the complaint if there are violations. And then when an inspection is made upon a complaint and no violation exists, so there can be complaint-based inspections. So they're not immune from inspection. They're just, there's no system by which they're regularly inspected and added to the pool, so to speak.
Anna?
Do we have any way of quantifying how many owner-occupied rentals there are, or would we have to do so simply by like surveying people and having them tell us?
That's a question for Brandy, but there's inspections, but there's also registrations. So I think under, and that's a different code, Registry of Owners and Premises. So under 85 17, you have to register rentals. So, the owners of all
Even
rental,
in owner,
I'm sorry.
sorry, even in owner occupied rental?
I believe so. I believe so. And that would be a Greg Scrimger question.
Okay. Um,
I believe so because it says under 8517, uh, the owners of all rental dwelling units and abandoned buildings shall register their names, date of birth, both the street address, the location of the dwellings and the number of dwelling units or rooming units to be offered to let prior to leasing. So registration is different than inspection, but registration doesn't lead to a CFC. They give a CFC when there's a past inspection, and inspections are based on the unit or based on a complaint. Now, maybe the renters commission should get some data from Gail or talk to Gail or the tenants union to find out how many owner occupied are there and what are the conditions? Maybe they're immaculate or maybe they're dives, are they a problem? I'd want to know that. And also why, if they're not well maintained, why aren't tenants complaining?
they may think that they can't complain because of that being like, oh, well, it's owner occupied.
Yeah.
So,
So maybe
mhm,
there's an education piece, maybe there's an intimidation piece, maybe I don't, because they can be inspected, they're just not
mhm.
inspected through a system systematically.
And I'm gonna ask one last question, and then I think we'll move on to the next set of questions for you. Um, where the old program that used to be where you had a senior opening their home to have someone move in to live with them, and like they'd pay like reduced rent to help out around the house, or just to be there at night, and might be like reduced rent or no rent. The house that was the senior house sharing program that's coming back online. Does that would that fall underneath like that senior then having to register their home? If if the city, because it would be owner occupied for sure. It would be the primary dwelling of that particular senior. And they may or may not be charging rent.
You have the best questions, the trickiest questions. That's something I'd want to look. I'd want to look into that, and I'd also want to consult with rental housing with Leisha and with Greg Scrimger and how they would treat that. If you could forward that to me and Kristen so that we could get it on to Pete and Brandy and you know, Alicia, the team there, so we can kind of weigh in on that.
Okay, yeah,
Are
because
the tenants paying rent?
in some cases they might be paying rent. In other cases, they may not be paying rent, that they'd be there and it'd be like, well, 2 days a week, you're gonna do the grocery shopping and you're gonna, you know, clean the house, right? Because that person can't do that anymore. Um, and you wouldn't be paid to be there because you'd be living there, so you're not getting paid to do that. Or it could just be that, you know, I need someone here, like someone needs to be here overnight, but and that's it. Like I know someone who did it years ago when it was before the program got canceled and the person didn't pay rent. They just said that, oh yeah, they'd be there at night. And like, it made the person feel safer that there was someone in their house with them at night. It was an older woman. But there was a registry for that. And so I don't know where that falls exactly.
I mean, do they register?
Travis?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to alert that Cynthia's over in the attendees side. So if Kristen, if you could move her over.
John? So
I mean, it's
should
clearly a dwelling unit, clearly a dwelling. Um, it's clearly owner
should
occupied. And I don't know if it's just a lease.
yeah, like I can just email you the
Email
info, so
me
then
and
yeah, it'd be easier, I think, to
see,
read it.
loop in Kristen on the CC, and then we'll get it to the right people in the rental and how those have been treated in the past.
Okay, thanks. Hannah, was there anything else?
The next topic we just wanted general feedback about was creating some sort of landlord-tenant ombudsman program to help mediate landlord-tenant issues. I think we're just generally wondering the feasibility of that.
So landlord tenant issues with respect to rent that's not paid or the condition of the property or the snow is not shoveled, the lawn's not mowed, there's mold, the toilet doesn't work. I mean, related to the inability or non-payment of rent or related to the condition of the property.
I think primarily as a means of eviction prevention, and then possibly as a means of maintaining habitability of the home. But I think eviction prevention would be the primary goal here.
Yeah. So habitability should be addressed through the rental housing and the complaint process and, the certificates compliance, the registrations, the inspections, the complaints, that should address that. So kind of like an advocate for tenants with landlords when they're likely
It's
late
more like,
on rent or.
yeah, it's more like mediation before going to court. To try to avoid court and court costs on both sides.
So kind of like what legal services does a little bit, or they get involved too late when there's court actions.
I think they get when there before there's court actions. It's a thing in certain other cities where they have a landlord-tenant ombudsman program, and typically they come to an agreement within that mediation. And so then that way it doesn't end up going to court. And it isn't where it's necessary, and it's not like, and neither side is bringing an attorney to it. It's not at a legal action stage at that point. It's trying to figure out, okay, well, you have a mediator, and then you have the tenant, and you have the landlord, and they're like, well, you know, we can do this payment plan. They both agree to it. The tenant does it, they don't do it, then and then it goes to court if that isn't agreed to.
So, I mean, that seems to me that that would be a policy and budget question for council. Is this something that would be that part of the Ann Arbor city government, or would there be an outside agency with whom the city would contract for these services, like the mediation center, dispute resolution center, or some other agency that does these things?
I
Travis
don't know.
has his
It's
hand
not
up.
something that we had actually really gone into
Yeah.
any sort of details
Well,
about.
I'm gonna pass the buck or
Um,
punt on that one, but I see Travis's hand up.
mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say if the question is it technically possible? Yes, I think it is. I think whether or not, if we're talking about adding a full-time employee to the city, if we're talking about contracting out, like those are all other components that would have to get discussed. I know that the city attorneys or the city administrator's office had previously explored a different ombudsman office position. And so, I think that there are um a lot of details you would have to kind of work through to determine whether or not it's feasible, right? I mean, is it possible? I think so. I think is the answer.
I think where it came from is when there was talk of providing, which it was like, was it providing the right to counsel and or the ombudsman? And we had talked about looking into having someone from one of the tenant landlord ombudsman's programs coming to do a presentation to learn more about it, including how it's funded. Are there fees attached to create, is it a self-funded kind of office? Like how that even works, to know if there's any sort of feasibility, really, because the only ones that I know of, they've been in existence for quite some time and are already established. I haven't heard of new ones coming online. Was there another question, Hannah?
Yeah, the last work plan topic we wanted some feedback about was just the general concept of some sort of right of first refusal program. Um, we had talked about that as part of our ideas for slowing gentrification, right? Like giving an existing tenant the right of first refusal to purchase the property if the landlord is planning on selling it.
Um, I, I don't think that that's something that, we've researched. To be honest with you, um, I'm just thinking the practicality of buying a rental property in the city of Ann Arbor, and how, how much that would be. I guess, I mean, it would, just thinking about it, it seems like it might not work for a multi-tenant student housing, but potentially so. But it's more likely to happen like in a residential neighborhood with a family kind of thing, and the landlord wants out of the business, and the tenant, um, would that be part of the lease? Would it be set by an appraisal? How would the program be set up? Whether that's something we could do in our police powers, Whether, how would we administer it and how would we enforce it? And, you know, how many people would likely avail themselves of it? I mean, those are questions that I'd, want to know, or would be part of it, I think.
Okay. Well, I think those are things to go back to discuss at the tenant education meetings. Is there anything else, Hannah?
That's all I had from my notes, so I don't know if anyone else has any other questions on other topics.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, then we'll go ahead and move forward on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is it's the plan for next meeting, and we kind of already talked about that, which was going to be city planning telling us the number of units that are coming online and when, and the update on the junk fees ordinance. Was there anything else that someone wanted to have put on the agenda? No? Okay, then we'll go ahead and move on to next in the reports, and the next report is the report from City Council.
I kind of already gave my report that we're working on kind of reviving that now that we've made it through budget and all of those things. And so we are hopefully going to have an update on that at the August meeting. And then the other update I guess I can share, Rosanita, is the the one that you have as well, which is that we are working on filling the vacancies that exist on the body. So Rosanita and Cynthia, I think Dan was on there as well, have a few email exchanges, and we have one potential candidate who is confirming that they are eligible to serve with their employer, and then hopefully we'll be able to get some additional people appointed soon.
Fingers crossed.
Yay.
And um, uh, John?
There was a question that Kristen forwarded on to me about immigration status and what role that might play in a rental housing inspection. And I reached out, I thought I've never heard of anything of the sort. So I reached out to Greg Scrimger, and he confirmed that immigration status is just not something that they're remotely interested in. In fact, he also represented that he's never had any contact with an ICE agent or anything like that. So I don't know what the specific question that somebody had was, but I reached out and confirmed what I suspected, and that's, they care about mold, they care about the stairs, they care about windows, they care about other stuff, but immigration status, and that's not like, they're not reaching out to immigration or anything like that, or being contacted by immigration. If that's what the nature of the question was.
I don't remember that being a question, but it's
Oh, I got
good
it
to
from
know
Kristen.
that.
So Kristen forwarded it on, so maybe someone reached out to her with it. But
I
anyway,
do. I mean, I do know that we've had that I've heard, and I think Hannah had also heard of people being afraid to report things because a landlord had signaled that they might retaliate by calling immigration on people, whether even if the person is here legally. Um, that's kind of that's a very new thing, unfortunately. And so there's concern on that end, but it's not really
yeah, I mean, what
like,
landlords are doing,
yeah.
yeah, but I'm
And
telling you, the city's not having any part of that.
right, right. And so I think this was more of on this end of tenants being afraid of what a landlord might do if they complain, um, is something for like a different kind of discussion, I think. Um, Cynthia, did you have any updates?
I do not have any additional updates today for this meeting.
Okay, reports from commissioners. We did have the, oh, wait. We did have the, was it the stakeholder engagement session at Mallett's Creek Library last month. There was some engagement with that. Thank you to Hannah, Kim, and Dan for attending, and especially thank you to Kim for picking up the materials for that morning um, from downtown. Um, from what I saw when I got there and from when I was there, the biggest concern, of course, is just how the cost of rent and rent control, which is something that is not something that the city controls or can control. It's a state level issue there. We did have one person who it went back to, again, immigration, being an international student who was like, you want me to criticize the government? um, and again, that's like a whole other kind of issue at this point that isn't, I don't think is necessarily something that the city government can do. Um, ex except continue on doing what we've been doing, which is everything is that we're doing with the stakeholder engagement is anonymous. And thanks to whatever question was given to John Reiser, knowing that the city itself does not care about immigration status when it comes to making sure that a dwelling is safe. Hannah, am I missing anything?
The only other notes I had were we got a comment asking for just increased housing stock in general, including taller buildings. Another person commented that apartment buildings should be up to code. So I think people are maybe having problems with the state of their rentals, and maybe we need to do more tenant education about how to file complaints or that entire process. The other topic that came up was uh, trailer parks kind of seem to be a gray area with some of the rental housing uh, code. Because sure, they're renting the lot, but they own the trailer. People are getting all sorts of weird fees. Um, so yeah, I think those are the only other topics that came up aside from affordability being the big one.
And what is it? Courthouse, aside from that, Courthouse Square hired security guards. And so Jordan, did you have any updates on how that was going?
Yeah, I did. So I think security started, I want to say they said June 9th, and there have been some feedback that they were too firm. So they've kind of they're finding a balance with security, but they seemed generally fairly happy with that. There is a new manager that is permanent. They had one activity on July 3rd. Maintenance and repair is still a big problem. A lot of them are struggling with the conditions of their apartments. There have been some concerns about rent increases, like very significant ones. And then there was a round of letters that were sent out that were wrong. The company eventually had admitted they were wrong or something. So legal services, the good news about that, legal services is coming out next Friday. So I think that that's the right direction for that, and kind of having them help decide what are the next steps with rental housing through the city, and kind of moving toward that. But that was the summary of the updates from the couple of folks that I talked to.
Okay, great. Thank you. We've had so many discussions at renters and communications on it that I did just want to give that update because it is promising to know that there is movement going forward. And also, there was also a meeting with the chief about some of the crime issues that were happening there at Courthouse Square. I don't think I had given that update before, and he was really helpful and instrumental in resolving some of the issues that were going on. And so I did want to bring that up as well. Next on the agenda moving forward is a report from the staff liaison. So Kristen, do you have anything else for us?
No report.
Okay, then the last one is we have our last public comment, and then we'll move on to communications.
Right. I was reading from our previous resource last time for the public comment, and we know that this is no longer televised, and that if anybody
Right.
was listening, we would see them. And so there are no attendees in the meeting. So we
Okay.
can close up.
Yep. So then I'll go ahead and move on to the communications. The first one was just said sucks, and there was nothing within the email. So nothing to talk about with that. The second one was about green rental housing and how there was a campaign that was being sent to people, and it's really wasn't, it was a it was a sounds like it was a pack that was doing it, and I think, like I said, I never got the text messages. I feel left out, but so not to say text me, please don't send me like political text, but there, um, but I do think that it is kind of an education issue about who can and cannot send a text. And in this particular case, it looks like it was a pack, and a pack, like they don't get information directly from the city. It would be something that they would either buy from a third party or get from the state. It's a whole thing. But nothing came from the city on that part. Um, and then the next one was it the title says Ann Arbor landlords increasing market rate illegally, but it was about using the AI software that was being investigated or prosecuted by the state. Like was it Yardi, I think is one, and it tells landlords what other landlords are charging and then lets them know and like kind of suggests what rent should be within a particular city. There are, and there is concern that there are some landlords who may be using that to set the rental prices. One thing is that, like, even if you said, okay, you can't use AI software for it, then you still have there are still other means of landlords knowing what's being charged and still, changing their rent to do it accordingly. But regarding the AI, Hannah and I we did look into, like, is this something that other cities are regulating or attempting to regulate in terms of the, um, I don't want to say in terms of the pricing of rent. Um, and there are cities that have ordinances against using this type of software for rent to determine rental prices. Um, as far as I could find, only one is going through an active lawsuit right now from one of the software companies. And it's because that particular city specifically named the software company. within their ordinance. I don't know if it's something that the Renters Commission wants to think about or take up or think about the feasibility of, but that's it for for that one. The amendments redacted, I really couldn't make heads or tails out of it. Kristen, did you understand what it was?
I wasn't sure quite what they were addressing. I know that the email was to I think rental housing services and some other contacts, so maybe they were just looping renters commission in on it. That happens occasionally when people are reaching out. But this one there seems to be like a little like more to the story was going on before they looped renters in.
Okay. And then the last one was about Courthouse Square. It was about potential security issues that were happening there, and it was also dated before the security firm started. Are there any questions or comments about the communications? Oh, and that is the second to last thing on our agenda. The last one on our agenda is adjournment. And so we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting for tonight. Have a great rest of the month. Go out and enjoy the art fair, please. You know, support the artists and the businesses downtown, as well as, you know, if you can, take the bus down there. And we'll see you guys in August, and I'm sure Hannah will send out a when to meet for the Tenant Education Committee meeting, and Kristen will be sending out the Sign Up Genius for the festival. Thank you, and have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.